Hello again, it's been a while. Why has it been a while? Pandemic. So today I wanted to talk about this. The last time I showed this on YouTube, it was a big folder, and it was me in a red Pokemon t-shirt talking about how I was not querying this anymore because it wasn't ready. Well, in March of this year, 2021, I blitzed through a redraft of this, which is this copy that we have here. This is the printed beta copy. I'm not going to show you the front because it's got the title on and I want to reveal that at my leisure. But basically, yeah, so I have that, what was once entitled the Mammoth manuscript, only because of its size, not because it has anything to do with mammoths. I am much happier with it now than I was back then. And I have come to the decision that I am going to self-publish this novel. And I wanted to talk through the reasons I'm going to self-publish this novel. I've realised I've missed another one, which is actually one of the first ones. So actually I'll just try and remember. I've made myself a little list and I'm just going to try and remember to dump everything down one, because actually the number one reason that I want to self-publish my novel is because it is so much faster than traditionally publishing a novel. Because with traditionally publishing a novel, you have to polish your manuscript, get it up to like publishable standard, write a query letter and a synopsis, and get all that up to perfect standard, send out some queries, retweak your queries, send out some queries, retweak, and so on, until you get a literary agent. Let's say it's an ideal world and you get a literary agent for your first manuscript. Wonderful, props to you. Then you have to wait, you have to do it back and forth with the literary agent to get it to something that they think will sell. They send it to on submission to publishing houses. Let's say you get a yes from your first manuscript submission series. Props to you. The publishing house then goes back and forward with you a little bit to talk about how they want to sell it. You make some tweaks and edits. They send it to a developmental editor, to a sensitivity reader, they get cover design, blah, 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 blah. It takes a long time, basically. They get to decide when it comes out, all that jazz. That's how traditional publishing works. Self-publishing works on a wide spectrum of things. I'm trying to get it very sort of professionally self-published. That's the goal here, professionally self-published. But it is still a whole ton faster. And that is the number one reason, the speed, the getting to do it. I just get to do it, you know? Reason number two, or two to use the British Sign Language numbers. Reason number one was the speed. Reason number two, marketability. What I mean by that is I do think my book is marketable. I think me as an author, less marketable. And you may be thinking, well, what's wrong with you, Will? What I actually mean by that is I don't think a traditional publishing house is going to find me easy to market, which means that even if I got a deal from a traditional publishing house, they probably wouldn't put me in their big marketing push, which is a very small subset of the people they sign with. And as a non-binary person, I am twice as hard to sell as your average binary trans person, because I don't fit in a binary box, and people don't like that, which means I'll be hard to market, which means I probably won't get marketed, which means I will have to do all of the marketing myself anyway. And if I have to do all of the marketing myself anyway, I might as well get some of the extra benefits that you get from self-publishing compared to traditional publishing. And these benefits are incredibly subjective, so really don't take my word for it, do your own research. Reason number three that I am thinking of self-publishing is the freedom. The freedom, by which I mean traditional publishing houses won't publish pirate novels because they don't sell. What that means is they don't sell to the extent that a traditional publishing house wants to sell a book. It's not enough of a return of investment for a publishing house to be happy. And they are a business, they've got their own business books, and that's totally fair. That is a fair decision to make as a publishing house. Pirate books don't typically sell well. But here's the thing, I want to write a pirate book, and if I'm self-publishing, nobody can stop me from writing a pirate book, because I do think that there is a very specific subset of people who are very, very, very interested in pirate books, and who will buy my pirate book. Just because it's not enough for a traditional publishing house doesn't mean it's not enough for me if I'm self-publishing my own pirate novel. fair warning, the Mammoth manuscript, not a pirate novel. That's on the cards, but it's not this book. Reason number 4, I've remembered that we are one down. Reason number 4 is the potential for slow growth. If you are traditionally publishing, you have to sell a lot of books very quickly, because otherwise you don't create enough of a return of investment for the publishing house, and you will not be able to publish any more books in a traditional publishing setting, especially if you use your actual legal name for the first book you ever publish. With self-publishing, you can grow as slowly as you like. So like, I could publish 20 books before I start selling out the investment I've put in. And you know what? I'd be okay with that. And by 20 books, I mean 20 separate novels before people start buying enough of them that I start getting an actual return of investment. And you know what? I'm fine with that. Like, that's totally up to me. And I've decided that sounds great. Any books are good books. Reason number 5. Rejection, specifically from literary agents, but also from publishing houses. When I did query the Mammoth manuscript, I got one rejection, and it was a form rejection, and it was a very nice form rejection. It was very polite. It was very generic. It was basically, I didn't get on with the tone of your book, and that was totally fair. And as I said, I don't think it was actually ready to publish or to query at the time. So, you know, totally fair. I was expecting to get rejected. Even with all of that knowledge, at the time that I got the rejection, even with having expected a rejection, even with knowing it wasn't ready, or having realised subsequent to querying that it wasn't ready, even with deciding that I didn't actually want to publish that book then, it was still a huge gut punch. It was an awful feeling. People are probably going to be mean and they're like, just grow a thicker skin. And it's like, ultimately, I've always been a really sensitive person. Like, it's one of those things. I was labelled as a crybaby in school and high school. I am a sensitive person. And you know what? I am nearly 30 years old. That's obviously not going away. So I've got to work with what I have. I've got to work with who I am. I've been rejected for a lot of things in my life, and it hurts every time. And you know what? Why open myself up to that if I could just self-publish the novel anyway, and then I don't have to go through it, right? Right. Reason number 6, yes, 6, copyright of the cover, specifically. I would really like to have the copyright rights to my own book covers so that I can use them in marketing materials, and so that I can sell merch with them on, or even just make merch with them on for my own purposes. Which I'm not going to get to do if I'm going through a traditional publishing company, because technically a traditional publishing company would have the rights to my book cover, because they are the ones buying the book cover, and they are the ones who own the copyright to your book. Reason number 7, copyright return / out of print. Basically, you can have a clause in a traditional publishing contract. It's quite hard to get in there, but you can have a clause that basically says if the publishing company fails to print or decides to take your book out of print, you can, under a very specific set of circumstances, have the rights for the book returned to yourself, so you could then self-publish it. But you cannot, I don't think you can have it in a clause where you can traditionally publish it with another company. I think that's against the rules. I'm not sure. I know there is a clause that exists, but yeah, if you don't sell your book well enough, your book goes out of print. And I don't want that to happen, because the amount of books that I read as a teenager that were mid to lower list books, they didn't sell hugely well, and they are now out of print. But by the time I got to the end of the series, like the next book in the series, especially if I was just getting them for like my birthday and Christmas, because my birthday is right next to Christmas, they're both in December, so I was only getting them once a year. But for my birthday and Christmas, I would only get 1 book or 2 books a year, which means that a lot of the time, if they're releasing every year and I started 3 years behind, by the time I get to book 5, it's out of print and I can't get a copy. Nightmare. I don't want to do that to people. Even if it doesn't sell well, I would like people to be able to get access to it whenever they want. Number 8. The purpose of publishing, for me. The primary purpose of publishing this book, or any book, right now, at this point in my life, in April 2021, is to have a published book. The potential earnings for that book are secondary to the goal, the aim, the dream of having a book that is published and out there and purchasable. And while that is likely to change with time and with life, because of that purpose, I am in direct contradiction with a traditional publishing company, because a publishing company's goal is always to earn money. Number 9, potential earnings. Because obviously a traditional publishing company wants to earn money, so let's jump into earnings. This has 2 subpoints. So subpoint A of 9 is royalties. I'm aware of the fact that royalties can be higher for indie authors than they are for traditionally published authors, specifically self-published authors, because there are 2 kinds of indie author, but we won't get into that. So self-published authors tend to have higher royalty rates. You get to set the price for your own book, all that jazz. It's good stuff, it's great. It is something I have considered. It is something that is appealing to me. It's not a make or break kind of situation, like I would have been happy with any money from selling a book, but I am aware that the royalty rate for self-published authors is higher. Thing number B, is advances. So when you traditionally publish a book, they pay you an advance of half of the expected earnings of your first year of that book. And then they pay you the other half on release day, I think, or like somewhere around there, I'm not sure. I did look at this, I just can't access the file right now. But basically you get these 2 lump sums of money of what they expect your book to earn them. Or rather, what they expect your book to earn you. This is great because the whole point of it is basically that you get kind of paid up front for the work you've already put in writing the book, and for the work that you're going to put in marketing the book. The problem that I got sort of walled in by was when I got made redundant in 2016. Yes, we are going back to 2016. I got made redundant. I didn't actually get a severance package because I hadn't been there long enough, but I did get the lump sum of my summer holiday pay in 1 month. From that lump sum of summer holiday pay, bearing in mind it was 2 months worth of pay, so the month of July and the month of August paid in, from that lump sum of 2 months worth of wages, Student Finance England decided that if I was earning that much in the month of July, I must be earning that much a month for the rest of the year, in which case if I was earning that much for the rest of the year and for the year that had just passed that they had already seen on my tax record, I would be earning more than enough to start paying back my student loan. Obviously I was not getting paid that much a month. That was 2 months worth of pay smushed into one payment while I was being made redundant, and I did not earn any more money for the rest of that year. I contacted Student Finance because I wanted the £20 back. It was only £20, but I wanted it back because I didn't have a job anymore. And they said, "We'll get back to you." I don't know how to deal with that because I never got that £20 back. And again, it's only £20, but with an advance for a book, it could well be a lot more than £20 going to Student Finance because you're going to earn this much a month for the rest of the year, which is just out and out not true. So I don't know how I would deal with that as like taxable and student financeable income. Which obviously, like, I could contact an accountant about, I could talk to Student Finance in advance, I could do all of this stuff, and there's definitely ways around it, but ultimately, I just don't feel like I have a solid way around it right now, and it would make me very stressed, and it's just something that I won't have to deal with if I self-publish, because I won't get an advance, I'll only get paid for the books that people actually buy. That was number 9. We are on number 10. Waiting around versus active participation. So this is actually a really divisive issue. Because basically with traditional publishing there is a lot of waiting around, especially when you're doing things like being on submission or while you're waiting for your traditional publishing company to get like editing done and cover design done and all this kind of stuff. Like basically there is a lot of waiting around involved. And while you can use that time to do things like start your next manuscript, woohoo, I don't like waiting, and I like the idea of being actively participating. That was a weird emphasis on that word, actively participating in the publishing side of my manuscript, which if I self-publish, well, by choosing to self-publish, I will actively get to be involved in every single stage of the way, which also means I have a lot more ability to have input in what happens. Number 11 is the fickle nature, I'm just looking at my notes, the fickle nature of the traditional publishing landscape, by which I mean we've just optioned a book that's exactly like this, you've missed your shot. So it could be a perfectly good manuscript, it could be perfectly well written, it could even be better written than the other one that they've just optioned, but because they've already signed a contract with somebody else that says we will publish your manuscript, you're fucked. Reason number 12. I can't just shelf a manuscript because a literary agent or a publishing company didn't want it right now. As proven by the Mammoth manuscript, I put that down for almost 2 years. I put that down in August of 2019. I picked it back up in March of 2021. But it was never gone from my head. I couldn't just let it go. It was always kind of there in my head, like, you know you've got this, right? You know this is a thing that exists, right? Hey, have you thought about this manuscript recently? And it's sort of always like tugging at my consciousness. I can't just put it away and like accept that that's it, that's the death of the manuscript, because somewhere along the traditional publishing route, somebody said no. And I know that a lot of authors do bring back their early manuscripts into the traditional publishing landscape once they have created a name and a niche for themselves. But it is just something that it just plays on in my head. It's just something that I would rather have the control over. I would rather get to decide for myself what I publish and when, rather than hoping that somebody else will agree with me. Reason number 13. Creative control. This is a big one for a lot of people. My one is particularly invested. I am very happy to work with people's opinions and figure out what people like and don't like and try and input more of what people like and take out more of what people don't like. What I am not accepting any creative control loss over is the inclusion of queer characters and disabled characters in my narrative. In the Mammoth manuscript, I have 2 non-binary protagonists. I have 2 non-binary characters. My 2 non-binary characters each use a different set of pronouns. And I'm not willing to do anything to change that. I'm not willing to take that out. I've also heard a lot of things about traditional publishing companies not liking using they them pronouns in your author bio. And maybe that's a bias of information, because people don't tend to talk about when it went well. People tend to talk more about when it went badly. But yeah, that was something that did cross my mind, and I feel like that can sort of quite neatly be put into this point. My next point, 14. Selling books at convention. I've seen a lot of people sell books at conventions like Comic-Con, MCM Comic-Con in the UK, when I've been Manchester, London, Telford, woo! Never been to Birmingham, and I've never been to a Glasgow one either. Selling books at convention is something that really appeals to me. It may be something I don't actually pursue, but it is something that I really love to do one day. It's like on the dream board, it's on the cards, it might happen, I'd love it to happen. And the only way to do that is to self-publish your books. You cannot sell a traditionally published book at a convention because it is too complicated to communicate it with the traditional publishing company. 15. Business relationships and the lottery mentality. Let me get a drink and I will continue. So but you have a business relationship with your literary agent, but you're also supposed to have like a friendly relationship with your literary agent, and that is a relationship that sounds like it would be a nightmare to manage. On top of that, there is what I'm calling the lottery mentality of traditional publishing, which is to say, it is so hard to get a book published in traditional publishing because of all of the different things I've talked about already. And because of that, a lot of people have this I've won the lottery mentality about their getting signed with a literary agent, which makes them feel like they can't play hardball with their literary agent or with a publishing company because they should be grateful that they have got this opportunity at all. Which obviously isn't fair and isn't true, but it is very, very common for people to have that mentality. And I am very, very sure that I would have that mentality if I were traditionally published. Which brings you into a whole nightmare situation, because then you can't get what you want and what you need because you have this lottery mentality. On top of the lottery mentality, like I said, it would be very hard to balance a friendly business relationship with a literary agent who has so much control over your career, because while they are not your boss, they kind of feel like your boss. It's a very complex relationship to manage. Number 16. 16. You have to do the twist if you're doing a team. Number 16 is I can do redesigns whenever I want them. If I'm traditionally publishing, if I'm self-publishing, I can do redesigns whenever I want them. I can decide to overhaul the back of my book to include something new if I want to do that. I can overhaul the cover whenever I want to. I can literally mess with it whenever I want. And it's like, I'm not going to do it like every week or every month or anything, but I get that choice. I get to decide the trim size, I get to decide the cover, I get to decide the text and the font size and all of that kind of stuff. And then I get to decide whether it ever gets a redesign, what the redesign would look like, which means that no one's going to end up with a situation that you get book 1 that looks like one thing and book 2 that's a different size and shape and colour scheme, and book 3 that's a different size and shape and colour scheme. When I was collecting, there was a 10-book series I was collecting as a teenager. I started collecting it under one set of covers. I got to book 4, I got a very old copy of book 5 that was like tiny in comparison. Like it was a solid this much shorter than the others. And then they got optioned for a TV show, and they got redesigned, and all of the rest from 5 to 10 had the redesigned cover, which thankfully did not have the pictures of the main characters on it. So I had in my 10-book collection 4 books that looked like one thing, 1 book that looked like another thing, and 5 books that looked like a different thing, even though they were all part of the same series. I also won't have to do UK versus US versus Australian cover designs, because I have another series of books that I got the first 2 in the UK print, and then because the 3rd book was coming out in the US, the 3rd and final book was coming out in the US so much earlier than it was coming out in the UK, my mum special ordered it for me. But it meant that I had 2 books with the UK cover and 1 book with the US cover, and the 3 centimetres height on the UK version. And then finally, last point that I have written on my notes is number... Did I just do 16? Yes, I did. 17. Which is getting to publish on my own schedule. Now, I know I kind of touched on this in the beginning, but what I actually mean by this point of my own schedule is not that it's so much faster to self-publish, which it is, as I already said. What I mean by my own schedule is I get to decide how long my pre-order campaign will be. So I can either decide now that I'm in beta stage, okay, in 6 months I'm going to publish my book, let me start the pre-order now. Or I can get to the stage where it is ready to go and decide I want to do a 1 month pre-order so that everything is set up perfectly ready to go, and I can actually focus for the whole month of a pre-order just on doing the pre-order stuff. So I don't have to worry about contacting other people, and I don't have to worry about, oh, what if the cover doesn't fit, because I've spent the time beforehand doing all of that and decided to wait until all of that is actively ready to go before I start pre-order campaigns. Now obviously not everybody wants to do it like that. Some people are like, right, I'm going to publish this next month, let me do cover design and editing and everything in the 1 month. Like, go for it if that's what you want. Do as you will. Your schedule is the beauty of it. You can do it however you want. You can do it fast, you can do it slow, you can decide you want a 6-month campaign, a 3-month campaign, a 2-week campaign if you really want. You can decide not to do a pre-order at all and just to throw it out into the world and be there like, look, it's a book, it exists, buy it. Like, it's totally up to you, it's totally up to me on my schedule and my terms. And it's all on me, which is both terrifying and wonderful. The biggest thing you need to decide for yourself, if you are trying to decide whether to self-publish or not, which is I assume why you're watching this video, unless you're just vaguely interested, is do you want to put all the work into finding a literary agent who will hopefully help you do all the things like marketing and building your author platform, so you've actually got someone who can actively coach you through the various steps involved? Or are you happy to take that onus onto yourself, learn how to do the business thing, learn how to do the self-publishing thing, take time, effort, energy, all of that, and put it all into the actual publishing of your book, and bearing in mind that you won't get any help doing any of it beyond the people you know and love in your day-to-day life or online? That's the question. Everything else is surplus reasoning. So for me, the active involvement of self-publishing is super appealing. And then everything that I've just listed is yet more reasons on the pro self-publishing list. But if I didn't want to do the business thing, traditional publishing would still be the way to go, even with all of those 17 considerations. Let me know where you are in your publishing, self-publishing, whatever kind of publishing journey. If you are near where I am, final beta stage, please come and talk to me. If you plan on publishing your book in the next 15 months or so, please come talk to me, because I would love to make some author friends who are where I am in the journey, so we can like hype each other up and all of that kind of stuff. But the best place to find me is on Instagram. I am at nopoodles on Instagram. I'm also on Facebook, but I'm not particularly active there. Technically I'm on Twitter. I never post on Twitter. The tweet machine is off. Do not follow me on Twitter. Well, I mean, you can if you really want to, but you will get nothing out of it. Like and subscribe if you like and want to subscribe. I post videos on a semi-non-regular basis because pandemic. You can, if you want to support me on what I do, keep an eye out for my book in the next 15 months or so. Follow me on Instagram because that's where it will be talked about. And if you want to monetarily support me right now, this very second, so I can do a better job of publishing my book, there is a link to my Ko-fi account in the description below. Yeah, that's it. That's the whole video.